Okay, first, let me draw a normal distribution. And don't forget, we start in the middle here, and we've got 1, 2, 3 on this side, and 1, 2, 3. Not a great drawing here, but -2 here, 2, +2 there, like that. Okay, now let's think about the t-distribution. Now the area is basically the same, so fatter tails and wider, so it's going to be smaller, kind of in the middle, like that. And so here's 0, and I might go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Much greater variance with a smaller sample, so we're right here to here. And so think about it this way. Look at this area in here. That's our data. And then what about our area on this one? It's a smaller area because we have more opportunity to get numbers that are out here. So more data in here, and this is the normal graph versus the t-distribution. So D and E don't really make a lot of sense, because if it was greater than, we're looking at like what's the opportunity of getting numbers out here. This area is much smaller on those two. So D and E don't work, but we would just say right here from the normal distribution, much greater chance of getting those numbers inside 2 and -2. So that is letter A. Right there, letter A. So what we're looking at here is the difference between a 95% confidence interval and a 99% confidence interval. So if we draw a picture, and it kind of looks like this, we think that, well, let's see, our 95% confidence interval goes from 44.2 to 54.2. And we're 95% confident that the mean reading score is somewhere in between these two numbers. Well, if we wanted to be more confident, 99% confident, we would make those numbers wider. So this would be a lower number than 44 over here, and this would be a higher number, so we would have a wider interval because we would be more confident that the mean is definitely in between those two numbers, 99%. So that's going to be wider, letter C. So it's very helpful to draw pictures no matter what you're doing in math. So I'm going to look at this curve like this, because they said that our t-value is 10% to the right of that thing. So I kind of thought of it like this. We've got 10% over on this side, 10% over on this side. So we're doing an 80% confidence interval. And what we want is that we're looking for that t-value. So we're going to use inverse t, and we're going to put 0.9, because we're looking for where is that spot. Well, 10% and 80%, because when we put that inverse t, it tells us all of this stuff, right? Where is that value there? So second var is down to number 4, inverse t, put 0.9 in there. We're looking at 90% of the graph here. And then they tell us the degrees of freedom is 8, and it spits out a number that is 1.396, which is letter C. That should work. Okay, that's number 8. So again, standard error. That's just a fancy word for the new standard deviation. So it looks like this. The standard deviation divided by the square root of how many you have in your sample. Well, they tell us the standard deviation is 15. And let's see, we have 9 guys, so it's the square root of 9, which is 3. Looks like 3 into 15 gives me 5. And is that our answer? Letter C. And that is correct. So let's go to number 10. Okay, so on this one, we've got a t interval, and we're looking at the data, so I have a feeling what we're doing is we're checking out the normal condition. Okay. Now they don't use a box plot on this, but if you look at it like this, sideways, we really want to see, is the data normal? Well, this one looks kind of normal, like this. See, if you just draw a picture, this one is heavily skewed to one side, and this one has an outlier. So this one's not going to work. This one's not going to work. Heavily skewed and outliers mess up our data. So the only one that would really work out for us is Z. You got to be careful though. If the sample size is 30, it doesn't matter what the distribution looks like at all. We don't care, even if it was this one with this outlier or this one. If it had 30 in there, we'd still be good. But sample sizes are all less than 30. So where are we at? Our choice is going to be sample, what is it, Z. Sample Z only, right there. And that is choice C.